I'll give you George Soros.
Didn't your hip?
So now I'll give you. So now I'll give you. So now.
Why is that?
Sorry,
Hey, this is not a debate. This is a series of statements. So,
Okay.
Deputy.
Okay. So now I'll give you. Now I'll give you. Now I'll give you. So now I'll give you George Soros. Do you want to hear from George Soros? You know George Soros.
See, you're inviting comment, Deputy. You don't do that when you're making statements.
That's fine. George.
He should know his day and answer.
You're inviting.
Yeah, that's fine.
You're
Well,
inviting
we'll have some questions, and then
Yeah.
we'll talk about. We'll talk
just
about.
make your statement.
Yeah,
and then
that's
we'll
fine.
have the
Can't
questions.
if I could just make my comments. Thanks very much. Might be uncomfortable, but I'll make some comments. In terms of George Soros,
Sorry,
George
Deputy,
Soros.
I ask you to withdraw that remark. I'm not comfortable or uncomfortable about anything. I'm here to act as an independent.
Could you tell me what I'm doing wrong
chairperson.
in bringing these
Because
issues
you're
to this House?
inviting comment
Can
instead
you
of making a statement.
Okay.
You will have a chance to put
Okay.
questions and answers.
Could you tell me what I'm doing wrong by bringing these issues to this House?
You're asking a question.
Okay. So what you're saying to me is don't ask any more questions until question time.
Don't be silly.
All right. Oh, yeah.
You know
don't-
exactly
yeah.
what I mean.
That's grand. So don't ask any more questions until question time. That's grand, Taoiseach. I won't ask any more questions for about 20 minutes. But I'll talk about George Soros. I'll just report to this House what George Soros said. George Soros talked about this austerity approach will condemn Europe into a deflationary debt spiral. You know all of this. So really, really eminent people that you respect, whatever you think about Sinn Féin's perspective, are telling you that this whole approach is crazy. And then finally, European Commissioner for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion talks about purely by cutting wages, competitive does not improve. We have to also invest in the labour force, a more balanced approach, some more solidarity and cohesion among member states is needed because to end the crisis, Europe cannot rely on austerity measures. I could go on and on and on in relation to these matters. And I'll get some opportunity now, obviously, clearly with a new Cahill. In relation to the solutions, here, let me present some solutions, because Taoiseach, I gave you a copy of our proposals, our analysis of this there the last day. I don't know if you had a chance to read it on the way. I thought you might have read it on the aeroplane on the way over to your engagements there, and I was hoping it might inspire you and you might find that spirit to make a stand, and instead of tomfoolery with Sarkozy. But anyway, there's four elements that we've identified, and I think you'll agree with this. There's four elements to the crisis. There's the issue of the crisis of investment. There's the issue of the crisis of the role of the ECB. How can the European Central Bank play a more constructive role in solving this crisis? There's the issue of debt restructuring, and there's the issue just in terms of the management of this crisis, the banking crisis across Europe. So let's go for the first one, because you asked for some solutions, you asked for constructive debate. So let me give you Sinn Féin's constructive contribution, in case you didn't have the opportunity to read what I gave you the last day. Okay? In terms of the investment crisis, we have a national pension reserve fund here in Ireland of €5.3 billion. Now, when we met the Troika, myself and my deputy leader here, and Pierce Doherty and Jerry Adams and our colleagues, we probed this issue of utilising the European Investment Bank's immense resources. Remember, the European Investment Bank have a strong track record in terms of investment and return. So it's a fairly prudent way of investing and a strategic way of investing money. Combining the resources of the European Investment Bank with our National Pension Reserve Fund and utilising that to invest in various projects. One, for example, the rollout of next generation broadband. Recently in this House we watched a presentation, a number of cross-party TDs and senators around the potential that this will unleash in this country. We don't have it. I could go on and on and on, but that's just one element. We need to unleash the potential of the European Investment Bank in a serious way. You see, that little document that was window dressing in recent days to the austerity treaty has no new money, has no new plans. It's a reconfiguration of existing ideas. We need a dramatic intervention, a real message of hope, jobs and growth to be sent to our people right across Europe, and particularly in your interest, Taoiseach, here in Ireland. So that's the first element in terms of investment. The second one is the banking system. Let's have a bit of honesty about this. There needs to be rigorous stress testing of these core European banks, because we haven't had it to date. We know that they behave recklessly. We know that they were utilised strategically to take that trade surplus and that wealth within Germany and other states to invest it out into the periphery, be it to a bad investment in the Greek government or an appallingly bad investment in these private Irish banks. So we know that they have caused this crisis, not the people going mad borrowing. We know that there was a fundamental lack of regulation in the international financial system that wasn't just limited to Europe. We know it happened in the US too. So when are we going to have rigorous stress testing of them? And then some deleveraging, and then we can recapitalise where we know actually where we stand. We've had some tinkering around the edges. This is the core issue that Sinn Féin believes that these core states are afraid of. Because when we go to that issue, we get to the root of the problem. But no solution to address that. We must have more austerity. So that's investment, that's banking. The third element is sovereign debt. We have to have a real discussion about how is Ireland or Greece or these other countries going to sustain this. Where is the burden sharing? Where is the pain really being felt by the banking system for the calamitous approach they took to global finances? So there has to be a real debate about that. We in Ireland cannot be condemned to this 3.1 billion per year promissory note, and we can't be condemned to continue these cuts and all the lobbies that you have to face. I'm sure if we had more Fine Gael and Labour TDs here for this debate, they would testify that their clinics are packed up, that their diaries are packed up, meeting with school representation groups, hospital groups, I could go on and on and on, with groups that are saying they can't sustain the cutbacks, you can't do this to our school, you can't do this to our hospital. So there has to be a way out of this, there has to be hope. I don't think, Taoiseach, I said this to you before, when you took your seat in this House all of those decades ago for the first time, you ever imagined that you would have to be presiding over this. And at some point, you have to give our people hope. At some point, you have to go out there and find that Irish spirit that has been there for the generations within yourself to do something about this. You have to go in, and I said before, and say, folks, enough of the niceties and the frivolities. There's a £500 gorilla in this room, and it's this crisis that has not been properly addressed. Angela Merkel, we don't have a crisis because the Irish people went mad borrowing or went mad spending. We have a crisis because we, political leaders, the global banking system, the estate agents, the economists who are paid for by the banks and the financial institutions, utterly failed our people. That the regular Joe Soaps and the regular 5/8 at home, when they put on their TV, every single night, there was an economist telling them that you have to buy now because house prices are going to go up. There'll be a soft landing. When they opened their newspaper, there was a supplement about how many houses and all the lifestyle that had to happen. Our people are not Harvard or Yale educated economists. They're not Trinity educated economists. They're just hard-working, decent people, and they were failed by their political leaders profoundly. When will that conversation take place? When will we say that those responsible for this will pay a price like the man in Britain who had his knighthood stripped off him? When will there really be a price to pay? When will there be a radical realignment of that system instead of those responsible for all of that being rewarded in America, being appointed as Treasury Secretaries, in Europe being appointed as technical Prime Ministers, or being appointed to the President of the ECB? The very people in Goldman Sachs who drove this crisis. We have Peter Sutherland, a former Commissioner, a former Attorney General here in Ireland, telling us that we should pay our way. Oh, he's not representing the interests of the Irish people, he's representing his pals in Goldman Sachs. So at what point do we confront those people who colluded to do so much harm to the people of Ireland, Europe and globally? And you know that Sinn Féin are right in this analysis. Why do we give these people a place? Why do we give them a top table? And finally, the issue of the ECB. We have to allow the European Central Bank to access the primary markets to purchase those government bonds. We have to be able to do that.
Thank you, Deputy.
There has to be a way, and I'll wrap up with this.
Yeah.
There has to be a way to deploy the European Investment Bank, the European Central Bank, and our collective wisdoms to address this crisis, to give our people hope. I don't want to see, and Sinn Féin does not want to see, the destruction of the potential for a social Europe. Ireland cannot achieve her potential on our own. We have to engage with the outside world. We have to do business with the outside world. We have to build alliances with the outside world. We have to stand together and challenge injustice, human rights abuses together.
Thank you,
So
Deputy.
be very, very
Time
clear
has
that there is a solution working with our European partners, but we have at some stage collectively have to challenge those who cause this crisis, and it ain't the ordinary people of Mayo or Donegal or Dublin, you can be sure of that.